You ask for his birth certificate. Alas! A fire destroyed the church registers. You search for a document concerning him in the archives of the Vienna War Office. The document has vanished. He was the mystery man of Europe, the great publisher and benefactor, the knight, the casino owner, and above all, the merchant of death, and the wickedest man in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Basil Zaharoff. I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to A Great War Who Did What in World War I special about Sir Basil Zaharoff. He was born Vasilis Zahariou. This was October 6, 1849 in western Anatolia to a Greek family. His father, a draper, changed the name to the Slavic Zaharoff, and in the mid-1850s the family moved to Constantinople. Young Vasilis had to quit school and begin working when his father went bankrupt, so he worked as a tout for a brothel, as a loan shark, and also as an arsonist for the city fire department. You did hear that right. He set fire to luxury buildings so that firemen could save them and the residents' belongings and thus earn a nice commission for doing so, of which Vasilis got a cut. By his late teens, he was working in his uncle's trading office, and apparently, when his uncle retracted on some sort of payment, Vasilis simply took the money from the repository and moved to England. There, Basil married Emily Burrows in 1872. That same year, he was arrested in Belgium for embezzlement. He escaped the restitution payment he had to make by fleeing to Athens. Once there, he impressed high society with his charm, his debonair appearance, his language skills, and his manners, but became an outcast once the embezzlement scandal reached the city. However, he had made his first contacts in the armaments industry and soon became the Balkan representative for Swedish inventor Torsten Nordenfeldt. Make no mistake, this was a golden age for an arms dealer. Nationalist fever swept much of Europe. Mass production of weapons was possible for the first time. The major powers of Europe needed weapons for colonial expansion. There was a huge demand. Zaharoff worked in Cyprus for a few years before winding up in Galway, Ireland in 1883, posing as a count and working as a shipping agent. He wasn't there for long and fled to Utah after receiving death threats for persuading local girls to immigrate to Massachusetts as factory workers. In Utah, he mingled with high society as the nephew of a Russian count exiled by the Tsar, and in 1885 married the wealthy New York heiress Jeannie Billings. He hadn't divorced his first wife, though, and was eventually recognized and fled for Europe. His first big success in the arms trade followed. It involved the sale of defective Nordenfeldt submarines. None of the great powers wanted them, so he went to Greece and, as a loyal patriot, felt obliged to give them a submarine on excellent payment terms. Then he went to the Ottomans and, as a loyal patriot, convinced them that Greece having a sub was a threat, so he sold the Ottomans too. Then he went to Russia and, as a loyal patriot, pointed out what a threat the Ottoman subs were in the Black Sea. Russia bought 2 of them. None of the subs entered service. This practice was dubbed System Zaharoff, turning one country against another and selling arms to both with the help of bribes and favors for officials, right? Soon, he spotted Spaniard Isaac Peral's work, the first practical submarine and the first with electric power for underwater action. Now, Peral rejected Nordenfeldt's offer to buy the servo motor patent, so Zaharoff managed to permanently prevent a deal between Peral and the Spanish government, primarily using a sexual relationship with Pilar de Miguiro y Berruete. Her father was the leader of the Conservative Party, and her husband was King Alfonso's mentally ill cousin, and her access to the palace and the government helped Zaharoff to build a powerful lobby of military officers, businessmen, nobles, and politicians by 1890. Zaharoff bought the Basque armament company Euskalduna and became the top player in the Spanish arms market until his death. In fact, in 1934, the Nye Committee of the U.S. Senate reported that Zaharoff received a commission of 5 to 7% of every deal between the Spanish government and the U.S. arms industry. Zaharoff ruined several public displays of the new Maxim machine gun, and with pressure from Vickers and the London Rothschilds, Hiram Maxim made a deal, and the Maxim Nordenfeldt Guns and Ammunition Company was created in 1888. Nordenfelt had a personal bankruptcy in 1890 and left the company. Zaharoff eventually became a shareholder, and it was bought again in 1897 to form Vickers, Sons, and Maxim. Zaharoff and Maxim got over £1 million in 1897 pounds from the deal. Zaharoff's weapons were used by both sides in the Boer Wars and the Russo-Japanese War. His most profitable deal came after that last war. Russia upgraded its armed forces, and Zaharoff managed to get contracts for Vickers for an artillery plant, shipbuilding facilities, and a dockyard. He gained the largest share in the Russian arms market. British Ambassador Sir George Buchanan, who helped Vickers, wrote that Zaharoff's tactics were too disgusting for words. By the time the Great War broke out, Zaharoff was living in France as a French citizen, making and selling arms to every major power. He had bought the French paper Excelsior, and his articles about French rearming caused the German Reichstag to vote for more armament funding of its own. He was also very involved with philanthropy. The war itself was, as you'd guess, pretty good for the arms industry, though salesmen like Zaharoff were not needed. But Zaharoff himself was, in many ways. In late 1915, for example, the situation in the Balkans was pretty dire for the Allies, and they wanted to bring Greece into the war. Zaharoff became a personal agent of British Prime Minister Herbert Asquith and wrote that November, "I could make Greece join the Allies and start fighting the Bulgars within 20 days. £1.5 million properly spent would shorten the war by months." Asquith gave him most of that, and he went to work. Soon, the British and French governments financially supported Greece's Salonika troops. The Greek Liberal Party acquired its own publishing house, and it began publishing pro-Entente propaganda to bring Greece into the war. Within a year, Greece was in a state of virtual civil war and eventually did join the Allies. In 1916 and 1917, Zaharoff tried to negotiate a separate peace with the Ottoman Empire. One big problem was the empire insisting on its territorial integrity, and Zaharoff telling them that in any scenario, Mesopotamia, Palestine, and Syria would be handed to the Entente. The offer rose to $10 million to be personally given to Enver Pasha and his uncle Abdul Karim. But after an incident at the Swiss border where Zaharoff was strip-searched and forced to stand naked for hours in sub-zero temperatures and his subsequent period of recovery, negotiations came to nothing. If you think he was just helping the Allies, though, you are mistaken. In 1916, he stopped the French plans to bomb the factories at BRIEY, which had belonged to an associate of his before the war, right? The Germans were using those captured factories and the neighboring blast furnaces to produce much of the iron and steel their army used. German sources say that if those factories were taken or destroyed, the German war effort could only last another 6 months. Post-war, the factories were returned to Zaharoff's associate. And post-war, Zaharoff finally got what he wanted: social acceptance after all those years of being an outcast for his professional activity. "I am like a child who has been promised chocolate." British King George V personally received him. He received the Grand Cross of the British Empire and began calling himself Sir Basil, though he was not a British citizen. He supported Greek post-war claims in Anatolia and donated as much as $20 million during the Greco-Turkish War. When the Greek army was destroyed and the surviving Greek population fled Anatolia, Zaharoff lost a great deal of money. He still had enough left, though, to buy Monte Carlo Casino as well as oil stocks in the Middle East. In 1924, he finally married his Spanish love, who had helped him sabotage Peral's submarine plans all those years ago. But she soon died, and Zaharoff went into seclusion. He died in Monte Carlo, November 19, 1936. He had sold weapons basically to everyone, from the US to Japan to Europe to South America, and despite all of his charities, he remained, even after his passing, the archetypal merchant of death, and really a sort of pop icon of evil. In Tintin, he was caricatured as weapons trader Basil Zaharoff. He is included in the dedication page of the Church of Satan's Satanic Bible, and Orson Welles said that Citizen Kane is partly based on Zaharoff and not just William Randolph Hearst. Well, Zaharoff grew up in a world where only the ruthless survived, and he was certainly ruthless. It seems, though, that wherever Basil Zaharoff went, he never really left that childhood world of ruthlessness. We'd like to thank Valantis Anastasio for research help with this episode. He also helped us do the research for the Greece special, which talks about all the weirdness that was going on in Greece in 1915 and 1916. You can click right here for that. Do not forget to subscribe. See you next time.